Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition, a Super Bowl week edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. I'm John Ledyard, along with Scott Reynolds here on the opening day of Super Bowl week in Tampa Bay for Tampa Bay. Scott, I know we wish we could be out there in person, boots on the ground, but other than that, it really doesn't get much better than this. What a way to kick off the week.
Yeah, really, John. It's pretty amazing, right? I mean, when the Bucs made the Super Bowl and they earned their spot in there by beating the Packers at Lambeau Field in the NFC Championship game, you kind of pinch yourself a little bit. You're like, wow, did they really do it? And then you have this bye week, which they didn't have back in 2002. It went right from the NFC Championship game on one Sunday to Super Bowl Sunday the next without any cushion. So you had kind of like a little bit of a bye week. Then all of a sudden, bam, conference calls galore with Bruce Arians, the entire coaching staff, several select star Buccaneer players. And it's certainly been a wild start to Super Bowl week. We appreciate all you out there in Pewter Nation joining us here on the Pewter Report podcast. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to compare the Bucs Super Bowl teams in 2002 and 2020. I'll give you my opinion on which units were the better unit and then which team grades out to be the better team, even before the game was played.
Right. I can't wait to pick your brain about that a little bit. We'll also take questions from fans. If you have any questions, let them fly. We will try to get to them. We also have a lot to touch on. It's not a typical like a Victory Monday Q&A podcast because we want to talk about and fill you in on some of the stuff that happened in Media Day because it wasn't a normal Media Day. You weren't able to see every single presser probably at this point like you would have in a regular Media Day, nor was all media able to be at a lot of different pressers because we were kind of locked in our Zoom calls and there wasn't as much bouncing around, I don't think. And so there will be a lot to talk about on today's show that you haven't heard, and we'll also give some injury updates as well. And it's all going to be brought to you by our friends over at Celsius.
Well, John, it's time to promote Celsius.
That's right, baby.
Podcast.
Oh, we both got orange.
Yes.
Let's go.
Had an orange. Now, here's the great thing about this orange, John. This is not the only orange I have. You know why I have more than this orange? Because I clicked on the banner on pewterreport.com, went to Amazon, and then I subscribed and saved 30% off my order. That's right. You can save 30% off Celsius right now. If you've wanted to try Celsius, now's your opportunity to do it and save a bunch of money. All you have to do is click on those Celsius banners on pewterreport.com. They're going to take you to Amazon, where almost all of the Amazon Celsius inventory is 30% off when you subscribe and save. Now, what that means is you make sure that you don't have, or I should say, you make sure that you don't run out of Celsius.
Yeah.
And what you do is you can put your initial order in, and gosh, with Amazon Prime, you get it like the next day. And then after that, you can schedule your next delivery for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whenever you want your next order of Celsius, and you'll save money on that too. It's a tremendous promotion right now. So if you want to get the variety pack or any of the different Celsius Heat or the regular Celsius slim cans, the Celsius that's made with the green tea, most of it is on sale, 30% off. Subscribe and save now through February 8th. So be sure to take advantage of this. And make sure you stay tuned to the end of this podcast for your chance to win a 3-month supply of Celsius. That's right, like 96 cans of Celsius. So be sure to stay tuned for that.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to stick around for that. Can't beat it. It's an awesome deal. Celsius doing some great stuff. Bucs are also doing some great stuff, Scott, and we got to talk to a bunch of them today. Almost overwhelming in the format, but we got media calls, Zoom calls with the Bucs assistant coaches from 11 to 11:30. Was like offensive coaches and a couple strength and conditioning, and then more strength and conditioning and defensive coaches from 11:30 to noon. So we had to kind of like separate, all of us kind of split up and we didn't get everybody, but we tried to get a little bit of everybody or most of everybody. And here's some sound bites and some takeaways. I, of course, if you've listened to the pod before, you know that I've got a little bit of a man crush on my guy, Kevin Garver. Man, I just think he gives great information, and I love that he's not afraid to share some stuff and talk about his players realistically instead of saying everybody's got to get better and stuff like that. Like, it's football. Like, you could say, like, guys got to get better in certain areas or guys are good. So I was over there talking to him. I got some good insight from him on Mike Evans and playing in the slot and how that's changed this season. Also what he sees in Tyler Johnson and how he's developed this year and how hard he works, and some of the other comments that he had on receivers that we'll get to in the show. You were over with Coach Arians, right? And you got to hear what Bruce had to say, and he had some injury updates for everybody.
Yeah, he sure did. So let's get to that. What he said was, and let me go to pewterreport.com, and I will read you his quote verbatim because it's kind of important to hear right from the horse's mouth what the latest injury updates are for 4 injured Buccaneers. Bruce said, and the 4 we're talking about, of course, are both safeties, Antoine Winfield Jr., who missed the Packers game with an ankle injury, Jordan Whitehead, who injured his shoulder, making a hero play, knocking the ball out of Aaron Jones's hands in the third quarter that led to a Buccaneers touchdown. And then Antonio Brown, who missed the second half of that Saints game and then also missed the Packers game with a knee injury. And then Levante David, we finally kind of got some info about Levante's hamstring injury. Not serious at all, thankfully. He tweaked it in the third quarter of the Packers game. I asked Bruce that question today. So Bruce had to say, I saw them today with the trainers. Antoine looks a little bit better. Antonio's getting close. He did a little bit on Thursday. We'll see how sore he is. Jordan, it's way too early to tell still. And then when it came to Levante, he said it happened in the third quarter of the Green Bay game. It's a very slight one, but we've been nursing him. We're going to make sure that he's ready. He was running out there pretty good today. You'd have to shoot him to get him out of this game. So
not going to do that. So it sounds like he's going to play.
Pretty encouraging report right there, I think, from Bruce Arians. I would suspect that by the end of the week, I think unless there is just something holding Jordan Whitehead back with a structural type of damage with that shoulder, not saying he has that, but I mean, that would be the only thing keeping him out, is if he would really go in there and re-injure that or worsen his condition, I think.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It sounds like he's going to be okay. And he's somebody that probably doesn't need a million reps before they play the game either, obviously. So it seems like they're going to be close to full strength. Jordan Whitehead's the one to really monitor. Chiefs had a COVID issue come up today. Close contacts with wide receiver Demarcus Robinson and backup center guard Daniel Kilgore. Remember, their offensive line's already banged up. Kilgore is a veteran, one of the leaders, even though he doesn't start right now. He's probably their top guy off the bench. So, it's a loss for them if he doesn't play. And Robinson has been their wide receiver 3 or even 2 at some points of the season. Sammy Watkins is back, so he'll bump to at least 3, and they kind of rotate people in at that spot. So it's not like a major loss, but if they're lost, or they're just close contact, so they'll be monitored over the next couple of days, and they still, I think, can be cleared in time for the game, I believe. Although tomorrow that may not be true if there are close contacts. I'm not trying to figure out how they add up the days exactly, but I don't think that I think that you start getting into trouble territory tomorrow if something were to happen. I really just pray both sides. COVID is not the main concern for this game. Obviously, we don't want that. Scott, I got to ask you this just to put it out on the table.
Hold on one second. Let's just
jump to get the super chat in, and then I'll ask.
Heard so much Mahomes this, Mahomes that today. It's sickening. Hope it pisses off the Bucs D. You know what? It's kind of funny because that reminds me a little bit of what John Gruden said during the Super Bowl season when they played the Falcons, the Michael Vick Falcons at Raymond James Stadium. And Monty Kiffin came out with a tremendous game plan. They shut Michael Vick down. I think they even knocked him out of the game. Vick had a horrible showing. It was a Buccaneer blowout. And and that was a famous clip. It would have gone viral had there been social media back in the day, John. If there was Twitter, it would have gone viral for sure. Yeah. But John Gruden says all week long, we hear about the great Michael Vick, but nobody was talking about our defense, and that was something that that John Gruden was poking the bear all week long. Michael Vick this, Michael Vick that. Haven't heard a word about you, Simeon Rice. Or you, Warren Sapp, or you, John Lynch, or Rondé Barber, or Derek Brooks. I
can just imagine those guys frothing at the mouth.
Oh yeah.
What a bunch of animals.
Big time, big time. And it's that type of of disrespect, really. And I think that there is the opportunity for this week. All of the talk is going to be about Patrick Mahomes and how he had his way for 400 plus yards against the Buccaneer defense. Tyreek Hill, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, in the first quarter. So I think that you're gonna see the Bucs defense really come out with a little bit of a chip on its shoulder this week.
Yeah, for sure. I did laugh a little bit at that because it's like Super Bowl week and the best player in the planet right now is Patrick Mahomes, and he's playing. And so obviously we're going to hear a lot about him. Yeah. But definitely from the Bucs D perspective, you hope it does piss him off for sure. This was a good question from Chris D. And this is where my question kind of spins off. My question to you, Scott, is he says, how would you rank the importance of the 4 injured Bucs right now from who you want the most to come back to the least, like the Bucs could survive without that player? My question to you that kind of spins off of this, and feel free to answer this one too, but if the Bucs are going to play this traditional Bruce Arians way where they're going to go deep a ton, and that's going to be their offense, they're going to, whether you and I want them to run the ball on 3rd and 2 or not, doesn't matter. Like whether we want the offense to have like a little bit more, scheme a guy open on 3rd and 2, get the first down, and let's go, if they're going to be this offense that takes their vertical shots, whether we like it or not,
right?
Wouldn't you almost rather Scotty Miller? I mean, he has been their best vertical threat all season long. It isn't just Brady and his connection. He's caught and finished everything. And Mike Evans, frankly, has not in that situation. I'm not saying he's a better receiver than Evans, obviously, but as a pure vertical threat, like, don't you want Scotty Miller in the game more than like 8 snaps if Antonio Brown's coming back? This is the Super Bowl, man. You need these big plays.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, when I rank the importance of the 4, I would put Levante David first. Right, I think there's a significant drop off between he and Kevin Minter at that other linebacker spot. So I would want Levante in there first, and Antoine Winfield Jr. I would want him second, and then Jordan Whitehead third, and then Antonio Brown in that order. I think Winfield. And no disrespect to Whitehead, but I think that Winfield, because of his ability to play deep, I think this is a game, and Todd Bowles saw it a little too late, but he made the adjustments to go more double coverage with the safety over the top. And one of the adjustments that I noticed in rewatching the Week 12 performance again today was when they started out in single high in that Week 12 game against Kansas City. The free safety, Winfield, was parked about 13 yards off the line of scrimmage, which that's been about normal for the Buccaneers this year. But then after Tyreek Hill beat him a couple times, then you saw him being parked between 16 to 18 yards off the ball. Yeah. So just getting back about 5 more yards. And part of the reason for that is because on 2 of those shots, on the 2nd and 3rd touchdowns by Winfield, by Hill, which you saw in those plays, the second one was where Hill was lined up in the slot against Carlton Davis, and they basically just dragged across the entire field, and Davis was in his hip pocket the whole way, but just could not keep up with him. Winfield actually wasn't Winfield on that play. It was Mike Edwards. Mike Edwards just couldn't get over in time, and when he did, he got juked at the 5-yard line, and so it was just a step late, not being in ideal coverage. And then on the 3rd touchdown, which was a 20-yard shot, here's the play we're talking about right here. You can see Edwards gets over and then just couldn't make the play, overran it.
Yeah, and you can see he's shaded to that side when it starts.
Yeah,
he just gets depth and never. Yeah, that's where you got to break.
And then on the other play, that was the 20-yard touchdown pass from Mahomes to Hill. Carlton Davis was all over him. Yeah, but the problem was they were in a single high at that look, and it was such a bang play that Winfield just didn't have enough time to cover the ground necessary to help out. Yeah. And it was interesting because when you look at what Bowles did after that, there were 3 straight plays where they went to cover 2 down there in the red zone right at the end of the first half. And Mahomes was incomplete. And part of that was because you saw the front 4 come to life. Jason Pierre-Paul was really aggressive. Will Golston flushed him out of the pocket on a play. Shaq Barrett flushed him out of the pocket. But they were in cover 2 down there by the red zone. That really made things difficult for Patrick Mahomes. So that was an adjustment that they made too little, too late. But I think going forward, you need to have a lot more cover 2, especially in the red zone, just because Hill is so fast and he doesn't need just a step.
Yeah, I mean, rewatching the game, the biggest thing that stands out to me is how Carlton Davis gave up like 200 yards and did that, but he didn't even play that poorly. I felt like, I really do think he played like even in that slot rep, he gets a jam on Tyreek Hill. He gets juked and still recovers, gets a jam on him. He just can't run that fast. I mean, it was just that simple, and so I think he played about really for most of those reps about as well as he could, to be honest. So there's a lot to look for in this game when you talk about the safeties. And I think you're right about Antoine Winfield in that regard, like the versatility and everything that he shows. So I'm with you that I think they need him out there in this game. It sounds like he's going to be good to go. And it sounds like Levante is going to be good to go. And to me, those are the two most important guys. Yeah. I really think they can win without AB. Now, AB could go off for like 150 yards and win Super Bowl MVP. That's definitely true. There's a lot of people that could do that. This is two extremely loaded rosters. This isn't Patriots Rams from a couple years ago where like you were like, who could win MVP in this game? Like it isn't really like that. And this is, these guys are legit loaded on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I think that Antonio, I just think if you're going to play that way, now I see people say, no, can't keep throwing deep. Like bad things are going to happen. I get it. I mean, I agree, but like we know to at least some extent that's what's going to happen. They did it well against Kansas City actually in week 12, 4 of 7 on 20+ air yard throws. I thought one of the first ones in the game really should have been caught by Mike Evans, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the pod and then in my Bucs briefing tomorrow. But I thought they really were on target pretty much with a couple of those, and then obviously had the one intercepted down the sideline that was Brady got hit kind of as he was throwing it. Yeah. And so there is obviously the risk to throwing deep for sure. But at the same time, that's what this team does. I'm not saying go away from it completely, but I am saying it's just something you got to be like conscious of.
Here's two X factors that we really need to consider, John, is when you look at two players that were not on the field on defense in week 12. Jamel Dean, right? The Bucs' fastest corner was not in the field. And so I think that we saw Mecole Hardman, we saw Sammy Watkins, we saw Tyreek Hill, we saw Travis Kelce, we saw all of the Chiefs' weapons on display in that game, from Le'Veon Bell to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? I mean, everybody that's going to play on Sunday on the Chiefs' offense was there from a weapon standpoint. But there were two key Buccaneers that weren't. Jamel Dean, he might get the assignment against Tyreek Hill. Vita Vea is another one. He wasn't there in week 12. We saw his impact in pushing the pocket back into the lap of Aaron Rodgers, driving the center right back into his lap, and that prevented Rodgers from stepping up in the pocket. And what that does is that keeps him back there at that 5 to 7 yard landmark behind the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly where Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul converge. And a lot of times what happens is those tackles will drive edge rushers behind the quarterback. The quarterback steps up, right? Well, that didn't happen, and it couldn't happen up there in Green Bay very often because of Vita Vea pushing the pockets. One thing I asked Larry Foote today was how big of an impact was he? He's like, it was a huge impact for that reason. Quarterbacks just can't step up in the pocket. And, John, we saw a couple times Patrick Mahomes stepping up in the pocket, not just to throw the ball, but to escape and scramble for yards. And that's something that might be clogged up with Vita Vea's presence too. So it'd be interesting to see how Todd Bowles deploys Jamel Dean, if he puts him on Mecole Hardman away from Tyreek Hill, or if he puts him on Tyreek Hill instead of Carlton Davis. So that's going to be an X factor. I think Vita Vea against this banged up Chiefs offensive line is also going to be an X factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody asked, I will try and get to all these. There's been a bunch of scheme questions here, and I'm kind of surprised. It's also awesome. We will talk more about that on Wednesday as we always do on the show. Yeah, there's some really good questions here. One of the questions was, let me see if I rolled past it, but it was something about the Bucs defending the quick throws or something like that. Or here it is, the short passes to Kelce they kill the Bills with when you're playing cover 2. Terrence Davis asked, how do you stop those? Somebody else asked a good question. Do you think the Chiefs come out with a quick game and get the ball out fast to keep the Bucs D-line at bay, considering the O-line injury issues? These kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think stopping the short pass, yes, the Chiefs will come out, I think, and they will try to get the ball out quickly, scheme stuff. Their RPO game killed the Bucs last time. They're going to want the Bucs to prove they can stop it, and so that it's tough.
And John, you know what? The Chiefs want you to come up and play press man. They want that. They want to bait you into that with the short passes, right? With the little, and we saw a ton of them by Mahomes. I went back and watched the film again today. It was amazing. We remember the shot plays, the touchdowns, but they were nickel and diming the Buccaneers. 5 yards here, 7 yards here, 4 yards here, right? And their passing game is really an extension of the running game. I mean, they use it instead of the run in so many instances. And they want you to get so frustrated that you come up there and jam those guys. And then Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill, right? They've got the speed to break that jam, and they're gone. Right. That's what they want. That's how they get their big shot plays. Is kind of forcing you to become impatient, get up there, take away the short stuff, and then they're going to hit you deep.
Right, and it's hard because if they do that quick game stuff, then you can't get home as while creating pressure. I think we will say all week that the Bucs defensive line is the key to whether they have success or not. Yeah. But when we say that, it's important that people understand and understand how we're quantifying that in saying that they may have success and the Chiefs may still throttle them. Like that could happen. Like it kind of happened in the last game. I felt like the Bucs defensive line honestly played pretty well against the Chiefs in Week 12, and it just didn't matter. And the Chiefs offensive line's in a worse spot now. And again, like I'm just saying, Mahomes is so good at creating space to throw, so good at needing very little time and space to throw, and they have so many quick game scheme you open concepts that it becomes really difficult to get pressure. So I agree, though. Vea is key in this game. The edge guys, I think, are key in this game, but they could do everything right. And the process, could be good, and they could still get a bad result because of how Mahomes plays the position. It's so unique and so difficult to stop. But you're right. Obviously, that's one of the things. And so how do you take away Kelce in that quick game is going to be one of the keys to the game. Yeah. And, I mean, I think that there's no one way, but you are writing about this for this week, Scott. Yeah. Like, hammer this dude at the line of scrimmage, right?
Yes. I was so disappointed. I'm watching him, right? And I would say the two primary guys that guarded Kelce in zone or in man coverage were Levante David and Sean Murphy-Bunting, the slot corner. And I was just so disappointed that Kelce had so many times where he had free releases off the line of scrimmage. And you just can't do that because the Chiefs, when they're not throwing deep to Hill or Hardman, or even to Kelce down the seam, when they're doing the underneath stuff, like you said, it's RPO, it's short, rhythmic type passing. And if you want to disrupt that, you have to make the quarterback hold on to the ball by ensuring that his primary or even secondary read is obstructed. And you throw off that timing by jamming a guy. We talked about the dangers of doing that with speed merchants like Hardman and Hill, that just if you don't get the jam, they're gone. They have steps behind you, and you better hope their free safety is paying attention over the top. With Kelce, it's a little bit different. He's a fast guy. There were plenty of plays where he just smoked Levante David, and Levante can still run even at age 31. But John, when you give him a head start, when he gets off the line of scrimmage unencumbered, Kelce wins. Yeah. He finds the holes in zones. He knows how to pivot and create separation out of his breaks.
He's the best route running tight end I've ever seen.
He just is. And so to me, I think against Kelce, you have to do the opposite that you want to do against Hill and Hardman. Don't play those guys in press man. But I think that it bears pressing or at least rerouting. If you're going to play zone, put somebody at the line of scrimmage, a linebacker or a nickel corner, whether it's Ross Cockrell, whether it's Sean Murphy-Bunting, and get some hands on him and slow down that route from developing.
I think the most important thing is hitting him with an edge guy. If he's in line or even reduced split, put your edge guy out there and hammer him and then rush the quarterback. I mean, we've already conceded the fact that you're not going to catch Patrick Mahomes staying in the pocket flat foot. Oh, you got a great sack, on him. It just doesn't happen very often. So I'd hammer Kelce at the line of scrimmage, then get into your rush. He'll slow down the rush, but that's where you got Vea inside in this game, and that's where you're going to need him to make an impact, and that's where you'll need blitz packages to make an impact. Bring the blitz from the other side, and so they have to get creative with that kind of stuff. Obviously, Todd Bowles knows that. I think he will. This isn't going to be a game where they just roll up and press. I was in Kevin Ross, the cornerbacks coach for the Bucs. I was in his Q&A today, and he was talking. I asked him straight up. I was like, yeah, I know y'all wanted me to ask him. So I asked him straight up. I was like, listen, you didn't press a lot of the season, and now you're pressing the last 2 games to great results. What inspired the change, and how has it gone, and will it go? I guess for the future game plans. And he didn't really say a lot about. He was like, "There's 2 different ways to play in the NFL. You can hang back and let people do what they want to you, or you can get up to the line of scrimmage and punch them in the mouth." So clearly, Kevin Ross is a fan of the move to press man coverage. He didn't address the fact that they hadn't used it very much this season until now. But he said, we've chosen to be one of those teams that gets aggressive. So he seems like he's pumped about it. But he also did say that you can't just do that against the Chiefs, Scott. He said,
no, you can't.
Right, and you and I have talked about this. You can't just line up with the Chiefs. They're not really like that as a team. They're not normal.
It stinks because what's worked the last 2 weeks, maybe even 3, if you go back to Washington, was the aggressive press man and some blitzing, right? That's what's worked. Against Aaron Rodgers, although they didn't do blitz as much because they were.
They got pressure with 4 really for the first time in a while. Those 2 games. Even the Saints game, they created some pressure, even though there was no he throws the ball so quick it didn't matter a ton. But there was times where they got through it in twist games and things like that.
And so, but you kind of have to scrap what's worked and then devise a different game plan against Kansas City.
Yeah,
we've already talked about some of those things. I'm going to be addressing a whole bunch more with some really cool video clips that John's helped me out with in my SR's Fab 5, which will come out on Friday or maybe Thursday night.
Oh yeah,
we'll have to see, but it's going to be a good one. And Charlie brings up a good question here. Charlie Abrams, think there will be a spy of sorts in some instances. You know what? I've kind of thought that.
Devin White?
I think so. Maybe Devin White, just because Mahomes scrambled enough in that game. And it was interesting because I'm going to break down two specific plays. Mahomes' longest rush of the game was actually 17 yards. They ran an option play in the first half down there by their own goal line. It was an option where they had a double tight end side, and Mahomes was running to the strong side. Le'Veon Bell was the pitch guy, and he ended up pitching to Bell for 8 yards. And, okay, that worked. And then they came back to that, and I believe the third quarter is in the second half. And for some reason, Devin White and the corner went to the pitch guy.
The corner blitzed.
Yeah. And
so they ran a blitz into the RPOs. Worst case scenario.
All of a sudden, Mahomes ran for 17 yards, right? And so, as a former Pop Warner defensive coordinator, I'll tell you that when plays work, teams usually run them again, right? Yeah. And if you're going to run a play twice and get 8 yards, which is a win, and 17 yards, which is even more of a win, if I'm Kansas City, I'm going to try that play again,
right? Just
to make sure that you haven't stopped it. And if you haven't, then I would expect to get at least 8 or 17 or somewhere in between on that particular play again.
Right, yeah. But ignore what I said, by the way. I thought you were describing a different play. But, yeah, you're right. No, that the play where Mahomes runs for 17, it's a matter of not being assignment sound. And that's where Devin White seems like he's grown, honestly, over the last couple of weeks. He wasn't, like, the worst player on the field in this game. Like, there were other games this season where he was really, like, teams were just going right at him. I know there were some RPOs on him, but honestly, I think he defended him about as well as you can, given the alignments that the Bucs were in. That one to Tyreek Hill where he's uncovered in the slot, and that's the one I was describing where they blitzed Cockrell, and so they didn't have anything. Honestly, Mahomes probably should have. I know he's just reading Devin White. If Devin White steps, he's throwing to Hill. If he hangs back and hangs over Hill, he's handing it off. But honestly, if he'd had more time for been a regular play, he just would have thrown the second slant because Cockrell blitzed, and he blitzed into an RPO, which is terrible. And so he had Hardman, probably would have been a touchdown. But obviously, that's not where Mahomes is looking on that play. But I say all that to say I think the Chiefs are going to look and they're going to say, oh, our RPO game was killing them. Let's see if we can make it happen again. And the zone read stuff too if Mahomes is healthy. Now, I'll say this about the spy. I think you have maybe certain instances where that could be the case, and you certainly have a good one in Devin White to be able to do it. But I also don't know that you want to put a guy in that role when you need everybody in coverage. It's a little bit tricky. There were some quarterbacks in the past where they were amazing running quarterbacks, but you could feel like maybe you could afford to have a spy in that situation because they didn't threaten you quite as much with their arm. That's not Mahomes, obviously. You have to be ready for both. So I'm not sure we'll see a spy all the time, especially with Mahomes not and maybe at 100%.
I think it would be like a spot instance here
situations.
To
draw situation or something. Yeah.
Right. Well, hey, we're still talking about the Bucs defense and this Chiefs offense, John. Evan Harrison's got a good question. What do you think? Would you say stopping Kelsey or Hill is more important?
Hill. Hill. Because we already saw that, I guess. But no, I mean, both are stopping important. You can answer this question, and I'd say most of the time you say Hill, you're probably right. But I mean, it's possible you could stop Hill and Kelsey kills you, and there have other guys too, and so they get they kill you enough to not make it matter which one you stopped. The essence of the game is you have to stop them on money downs and in the red zone. Like if you can hold them to 27 points again, you probably win the game. I think. Is that going to happen again? I don't think so, but you can win the game if you don't. I think, but if you hold them to 27, I think you win the game. So. You got 2 stops in the red zone last time. I mean, yes, did the Chiefs blow it on the Philly special? I cut that play for you. I was like, what is Kelsey even thinking? Like, Mahomes is just wide open, just right in front of him. I just don't know what he was thinking. And he didn't throw the ball. Man, that was a bizarre. But you have to probably catch 1 or 2 like that maybe in this game. There was plenty of bad luck for both teams in this game, honestly. The fact that this final score was 27-24, I think I said this last week on the podcast, it's got to be one of the biggest anomalies of the whole NFL season. I mean, the Bucs had like 3 drops at the beginning of the game, missed that big play to Evans on the sideline, had 2 turnovers in Chiefs territory when they were like inside the 30 or something like that. One was a weird fluky play off a bounce off helmet. They blew a protection on the other one. They had another weird play that I haven't seen them run all season, a little fake and swing pass out to Fournette that lost 4 yards in the red zone. I think they ended up settling for a field goal on that drive, if I remember right. And so, inside the 10, the Bucs never goal-to-go situations. They're like the best team in the league other than the Packers in this season. So and then the Chiefs messing up too, and the touchdown to Mecole Hardman from 80 yards. I mean, this game could have been in the 40s if both offenses were playing at the level they're capable. I mean, I still think Chiefs were better, so I still say they would won in Week 12, but it could have been 40-36 type of craziness. I mean, that's how many points were left on the floor in this game.
John Vincent Wright asks, I'm still worried about our special teams, kickoffs and punts. What do y'all think? Well, I think certainly when you look at Mecole Hardman's speed, right, he's a player and we didn't see Green Bay really strike fear in Tampa Bay's coverage units, and maybe it's because they got an ass chewing from what happened in New Orleans, right? But the little speedster from New Orleans, he could have been a difference maker had he not gotten hurt. He injured his shoulder, but this was a cat that had about a 55-yard punt return and then had another one for a touchdown that thankfully was called back due to a penalty. But I mean, all of a sudden it looked like the Bucs just simply couldn't cover punt returns in that Saints game, and Kansas City didn't really do much in the return game in the first meeting, but when you have a guy with Hardman's speed, and even Demarcus Robinson, I mean, those guys can flat out fly. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's, I mean, when you have that kind of speed, look at Mecole Hardman. I mean, he muffs the punt inside and gives the Bills an early 9-0 lead. And then boom, there he goes, on a reverse, or an end around or whatever it was, 50-some yards. And they just have guys that just based on their traits they put them in positions to succeed with their traits. That's what they do so well. I mean, Mecole Hardman has not been a great, every down player for them, but he can change the game in 1 or 2 plays because they will put him in position to use his best abilities. That's the mark of just great coaching. When you have guys that are just role guys, but they can change the Super Bowl, not because of how great they are, but because you know exactly how to use them and when to use them and where to line them up and all that kind of stuff. That really is the essence of this game, Scott. I mean, the Chiefs, as much as we'll talk about Mahomes and it'll be deserved, and as much as we'll talk about Kelsey and Hill, I mean, Andy Reid is just brilliant. Andy Reid off a bye is deadly. And so the fact that he has extra time to prepare for this, he's going to have plays that they've never seen before. There's no question in my mind. He'll have RPOs they haven't seen before. He'll have plays in the red zone that they haven't seen before. This is the Super Bowl. Andy Reid is going to be holding a couple cards that you haven't seen all season long. Are the Bucs? Are the Bucs going to be holding a couple cards, Scott, that we haven't seen all season long? It's not. They are as different. The Chiefs is. I mean, they are not. They don't run any RPOs. They are, near the bottom of the league in play action rate. A little bit better since the bye week, but really not that much over the last couple weeks in the playoffs. Like they don't do any motion at the snap, really, hardly any. The Chiefs do a ton of motion to snap. I mean, I cut those plays for you, Scott. Scott asked me to cut him about 16 first half plays that he's going to use in his fab this week, and it was unbelievable how many times motion before the snap told Mahomes exactly what was coming. Motion at the snap got somebody open. One of those two things is true all the time. It forced the Bucs to constantly show their hand.
Right.
Like, this is going to be cover 3. Like, you could see it. I could see it pre-snap. I'm like, man, if I can see it, I know Mahomes can see it, and I know he knows exactly where to go with the ball all of a sudden. So that's what he's able to get the ball out quick, and he's able to get it out. So the pressure doesn't matter. So the O-line doesn't matter. So that's all the things that I think make it such a tough matchup is the Bucs have to do some of these things and have to show a little bit more creativity to beat a beast like this, in my opinion. It'll be interesting to see if they have any tricks that they up their sleeve with an extra week to prep.
It's so tough, right? When you're going up against a blitz-heavy coordinator like Steve Spagnuolo, right? And he blitzed 47% of the time in Week 12 against Tom Brady.
Yeah,
and I think what the Bucs did was they went, especially in the first half, they went empty on a lot of third downs, third and short situations, to try to prevent the Chiefs from blitzing, right? Because if you got 5 eligibles out there and you're bringing 1 or 2 more, then it's definitely one-on-one coverage. And in some of those instances, Spagnuolo's defense won because Brady got pressured. And I don't like the call because third and 2 is what kind of down, John?
It's a rundown.
It's a rundown. That's right. 3rd and 2 is a rundown. Run the ball, right?
For as much as we rip on the Bucs run game, and deservedly so, they do not lose yardage very often.
No, they
typically
don't.
Because it's just right up the A gaps. Like just
3rd and 2 is a rundown. You're averaging 4 yards. You have Ronald Jones averaging 5 yards a carry, right? I mean, Leonard Fournette is averaging over 3 yards a carry. I think he's around 4. Okay, 3rd and 2 is a rundown. Sean, Ryan Jensen, Alex Kappa, when he was in there, formidable guy, can get you a couple of yards. Aaron Stinney, I believe in him. Ali Marpet, yeah, why not, right? If you only get a yard
against the run either.
Yeah, if you only get a yard, what are you doing on 4th and 1, John?
Yeah, running.
Tom Brady's sneaking it.
Right.
He's going to get it.
Especially in this game, especially against the Chiefs.
He always gets it, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's like when you go empty on 3rd and 2, I hate that because you're telegraphing it's going to be a pass.
Yeah, because quarterback doesn't run.
Right. And so I just can't stand it. We saw that too much in the first game. And, John, you go back and you look, 3rd downs told the tale of that game. The Chiefs were 6 of 12, I believe, on 3rd down. The Bucs were 3 of 9 on 3rd down. So that's 50% for Kansas City on 3rd down, 33% for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, bad game on 3rd down for the Bucs. Real bad game.
It just was. Yeah.
And they haven't been a bad 3rd down team all season long. But again, it was one of those games that revealed how poorly first down. If you play with fire with 1st down, like the Bucs have most of the season, you're eventually going to get burned on 3rd downs. Like I said, even the best teams on 3rd down only do it about 45% of the time. So it's just not a smart living, as they say. Like it's not. You want to be converting more first downs.
And I think that's one of the better adjustments the Bucs have made since the bye week, John, is running the ball more in 3rd and short situations, in trusting that run game, and if anything, you're not tipping the defense off to what's coming, right? You can be in 12 personnel and run or pass the ball in 3rd and 2. I like that. I don't mind passing the ball in 3rd and 2, but when you go empty, you're just telegraphing it's going to be a pass, right?
Right. I agree with you. Yeah, you can pass, but what about a little play action, man? Like 3rd and 2? Right. You kidding me? Everybody's got to read their run. If they don't, that's a first down automatically. Like everybody's got to take their run steps. Should be a cash money play action situation.
John, if you're Tyrann Mathieu, right, and you see empty on 3rd and 2, what would you bet? What would you bet that Tom Brady's going to do?
Throw the football.
He's going to throw the football, right?
Throw the football, yeah.
He's going to throw the football. Now, if Tom Brady or myself or you or any of our Pewter Report readers, listeners, or viewers wanted to place a bet, where would they go to do that?
Oh, MyBookie. Yeah, that's an easy one. I know that one right off the bat. MyBookie.ag.
That's right. So can the all-time GOAT get it done against the future GOAT, right? That's what everybody wants to see. Brady, Mahomes going head to head. Everyone's talking about who's going to win the big game. Whether you're a Chiefs fan or a Bucs fan, remember, where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on. That's why I always tell my friends and our Pewter Report readers and listeners and viewers to go to MyBookie to do that. MyBookie has all the big props for the big game. These guys truly let you bet on anything, whether it's the length of the national anthem, the MVP, the color of the sports drink dumped on the winning coach. MyBookie has a buffet of Bucs and Chiefs prop bets for you to chew on. You can even win big on NFL Squares. They got a cool NFL Squares game up there. So no need to leave the comfort of your home. You can access the sportsbook and casino right from your phone on their mobile app. Don't miss out on the last game of the year. It's the biggest game of the year. Sign up at MyBookie today and use promo code PEWTER to have your deposit matched halfway all the way up to $1,000. That's a free cash bonus just for making your initial deposit. Use promo code PEWTER to claim the offer. Bet, win, and get paid at MyBookie.
You know, this when we talk about the matchups in this game, Scott, we tend to think a lot about the guys, the big names, right? The guys that we could easily see impacting the game. But right. There are just so many players on both sides of this game that I could see just like, I think Scotty Miller is one of the most valuable players for the Bucs in this game. I think that he can absolutely change this game if they use him enough. If they use him enough, I absolutely think that he could change this game. I think, like I said, Mecole Hardman is one of those players. Sammy Watkins is one of those players. We've seen him do it before in the Super Bowl. You know, we've seen him make big plays in games where he was barely around this season. He got hurt. He wasn't really productive. He had like 400 yards receiving this year. Mike Evans is still like, don't sleep on this guy. Today during media days, Mike Evans is raving about him. He's like, don't sleep on this guy. I'm telling you, he's dangerous. He's explosive. He was every bit deserving of being the top receiver drafted in our class. I was like, whoa, like, you know, Mike Evans said he's a top 5 guy. So we know he in the NFL. So, you know, he has that chip still on his shoulder, probably that he was not the first guy. But I mean, he said Sammy Watkins absolutely was deserving of that. He was an awesome, awesome player. He struggled with injuries, he said, but yeah, so he was effusive in his praise, and I really think Sammy Watkins is still a guy that you can't forget about in this game. Like he is a good player.
We've seen it before in Tampa Bay. John, I'm going to read you some of the names of the Super Bowl MVPs. Some of these names are going to be very obvious. I'm not going to start at the beginning. We're going to kind of jump in. Let's jump in at Super Bowl 27, okay? Troy Aikman. You've heard of that guy, right? Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I heard it.
The next
Great job by Troy Aikman today, by the way. If you follow along on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. Troy Aikman hammered Mike Silver, and that's good thing.
I loved it. The Troy Aikman Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl 27. The next year, Super Bowl 28. Emmitt Smith, heard of that guy? Yeah, sure. Right. The next year, Steve Young, 5 touchdowns, San Francisco 49ers. The year after that, Dallas Cowboys cornerback Larry Brown. 2 interceptions, right?
Yep.
Then the next year, Desmond Howard, kick returner for the Green Bay Packers, helping Brett Favre get that one and only Super Bowl ring. 99-yard
what if
kickoff.
Jaden Mickens is the MVP?
That's what I'm saying, right? It's crazy. Here's some more names. After Desmond Howard, Terrell Davis. Sure, that's fine. Hall of Famer. John Elway, Hall of Famer. Kurt Warner, Hall of Famer. Ray Lewis, Hall of Famer. Tom Brady, heard of that guy? Hall of Famer. Dexter Jackson, free safety. 2 interceptions. I remember that one. Yeah. For the Buccaneers in Super Bowl 37. Then you go back to Tom Brady. But then the next year, Deion Branch, kind of unheralded wide receiver for the Patriots. 11 catches, 133 yards in that game. Then Hines Ward for Bruce Arians. He was the receivers coach for the Steelers that year. Hines Ward was the Super Bowl MVP with 5 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown. Didn't he throw a touchdown in that game as well? I think he did.
He might have. Yeah. No, Antoine Randall threw one.
Antoine Randall threw it. That's right. Yeah. 2 Hines Ward. That's who it was. Right. Then you go Peyton Manning. Then you go Eli Manning. Then you go Santonio Holmes, who was Bruce Arians' wide receiver. Ben Roethlisberger hit him in the corner of the end zone here in Tampa at that Super Bowl when Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator.
Yes, he did, Scott. Magic happens in this stadium.
It does.
Sorry, I had to bask in that moment. It'll be a while until the Steelers are back there again. So
that's true. We'll let you have it. So So you've got Hines Ward, then you go Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Santonio Holmes, talked about that. Then Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Eli Manning, Joe Flacco, then Malcolm Smith, linebacker for Seattle. Well, he had
got like 50 contracts after that, though. Everybody's like,
right.
come play here. And that didn't matter.
He was a one-hit wonder, right? I mean, interception return for a touchdown against Peyton Manning, fumble recovery, 10 tackles, but he was the player of the game. Then you go Brady again, then Von Miller, then Brady, then Nick Foles, then Julian Edelman, then Mahomes. So there's a couple guys sprinkled in there, right? Including Tampa Bay's own Dexter Jackson that, he wasn't John Lynch. He wasn't Derek Brooks. He wasn't Warren Sapp or Simeon Rice or Rondé Barber. He was just the guy that had 2 interceptions in the game. And
when you think about that defense, that was the guy. Yeah. I think that'll be one of the – and that brings me to this point, Scott, that I was going to ask you about on this show. And I know some Bucs fans in here have kind of lived through that era. I actually did live through – I mean, I was 12 – I think I just turned 13. No, I was about to turn 13 when the Bucs won the Super Bowl the last time. And so I do remember those teams. I was very into the NFL from the time I was like 6, 7 years old. Like, I mean, we didn't have internet. We didn't have cable. Like, I would sit at home at night waiting for my dad to he got work late on Mondays, and he would come back and he'd have the newspaper and it'd have all the scores. And I've often wouldn't find out who won Sunday's games until like Monday night. Like, I really wouldn't. So like, I'd grab the paper, I'd like have my little flashlight and go over the games. Like, I was all about it. So I remember everybody on those Bucs defense. I remember the players, but I didn't watch them every game like you did, I'm sure, at the time covering the team. And so when you look at comparisons between this year's Bucs and that Super Bowl team for the Bucs, there are obvious things that stand out right away, like the quarterback position. And that's obviously changed a ton, and the importance of that position in today's NFL is so much greater than even what it was in the early 2000s. And Brady was one of the guys that changed that and made teams, figure out we got to get a quarterback on this level. And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on mainly the defensive side of the ball, because I think I know across the board offensively, this Bucs team, I don't know. Well, I guess let me ask you this first. Is there a position group? And I know you're going to say one, but is there, other than the one I think you're going to say, is there a position group offensively that Bucs team was better at than this 2020 Bucs team?
Yes. Yeah. The running back position. Okay. The running backs. Let's start at the top, right? Tom Brady versus Brad Johnson. Love you, Brad. Right. But Tom Brady, he gets the nod there. But the running backs, I mean, Mike Allstott could find a way to get into the end zone. He's got 7 postseason touchdowns and Buccaneer history, including the first one in the Super Bowl. And I think the combination of him and Pittman, who had over 100 yards in his return to his home in San Diego, I think those two guys were more consistent weapons than Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
So
other than that, though,
that
Bucs O-line wasn't on this Bucs O-line level, right?
Correct. I think the wide receivers, Keyshawn Johnson, Keenan McCardle, Joe Jurevicius were 3 very good wide receivers, but where the Bucs have them is just in the depth, because it's not just Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. It's Antonio Brown. It's Scotty Miller. It's Tyler Johnson. It's deeper and more talented. Tight ends, Dilger and Dudley, they were great in their prime, but when they got to Tampa, they were past their prime. Still good, solid role players, but Gronk is kind of like in that phase, but he's better than those guys were. And Cameron Brate, I think, is kind of on par with Dilger. So the new tight ends get the nod over the old tight ends from 2002. The offensive line, John, you mentioned it. Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet, Ryan Jensen, even Aaron Stinney, and they're for Alex Kappa right now, and Tristan Wirfs. They get the nod over Roman Oben, Kerry Jenkins, Jeff Christie, Cozy Coleman, and Kenyatta Walker. They're just a better, more consistent group, especially in pass protection. Defense, listen, this is where
it gets interesting. This is what I wanted to ask you about, because obviously you have the proven veteran group that won the Super Bowl, but then you have this young upstart group with some exciting people. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Listen, you're talking about Simeon Rice, Warren Sapp, Greg Spires, and what Sapp called the Chuck and Buck show in the Super Bowl. Buck Gurley and Chuck Darby filling in for the injured Anthony McFarland at the nose tackle spot. And I'm going to give them the edge over Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaq, and Dominic Sue and Vita Vea for one big reason. Because if I picked this current group of pass rushers and defensive line, Warren Sapp would literally kick my ass. And I'm more afraid of Warren Sapp than I am of anybody currently, because I'm
man has nothing to lose.
yeah. I mean, he's the QB killer. He could be the SR killer. So I'm definitely going with the old school Buccaneers defensive line. But change my mind, Shaq and JPP and Vita Vea and Sue and Will Golston, et cetera,
Rice and Sapp were legitimately Hall of Famers. I mean, Rice should be. I know Sapp is, but Rice. I mean, I know he wasn't great against the run or anything, but come on, like this guy's insane sack numbers. That's what matters.
The linebacker core, I'm still going to give the edge to Derek Brooks and Shelton Quarles, who was a Pro Bowl middle linebacker that year. It wasn't just Brooks in the Pro Bowl. Quarles was moved from strong side linebacker to middle linebacker that year. And guess what? He went to the Pro Bowl, had a really solid year. Al Singleton was the strong side linebacker, and just a slight nod over Levante David and Devin White, although I love what they did this year for the Bucs. Cornerbacks, Rondé Barber, one of my probably the all-time favorite Buccaneer for me, a legend. Brian Kelly that year, I think he had 8 interceptions to lead the NFC. And Dwight Smith, who is John, we're having a Super Bowl show.
That's right. Tell the people.
Pregame show, and Dwight Smith, Super Bowl hero with 2 pick sixes, is going to be in attendance. So we're going to have our Pewter Report preview podcast on Wednesday. Not going to change, 7:30. Then John's going to have a guest on Thursday at 7:30. We're doing a special Pewter Report podcast live event at Glory Days Grill, our new sponsor. You probably heard me mention it in the SR's Fab 5 on Friday. And we're going to be at the Carrollwood location on Dale Mabry, about 15 minutes north of the stadium. From noon to 2, come by and meet myself. And
on Saturday, yeah. And we'll be
Saturday. Saturday, February 6th, noon to 2. Myself, John Ledyard, Mark Cook, Taylor the Grizz Jenkins, Mateo is going to be there, and also Super Bowl hero Dwight Smith, and we're working on a couple other guests. But we're going to be talking to Smitty and kind of recapturing some of the glory days for the Buccaneers 2002 Super Bowl, and talking about this upcoming game as well. But I like that group over Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting, just because of the experience. Safety, same thing. John Lynch and Super Bowl MVP Dexter Jackson. They get the nod over Antoine Winfield and Jordan Whitehead. The kickers, right? I think now the kickers, Ryan Suckup. I love Martin Automatica Grammatica. He went to Kansas State. He's my guy. Right. But statistically speaking, Suckup has him beat by a long shot this year. And then Bradley Pinion with his kickoffs and punting, I think, is better than Tom Tupa. So you add up all the position groups, John, you got the 2020 Buccaneers with 6 wins and the 2002 Buccaneers with 5 wins in terms of the position groups.
Wow,
so
close.
We'll see if they can match history and become the second Buccaneer team to win a Super Bowl.
I think we would give the Chiefs the nod over every Raiders position group that year, if I remember correctly. I don't think, maybe not O-line right now, the Chiefs' current state, but
exactly.
Other than that, I think it would be pretty. Chiefs chasing some dynasty, I think, right now, and Bucs need to make sure they prevent that from happening this year at least. But fun stuff. I like hearing those comparisons. That's pretty interesting because it takes me back. I remember Shelton Quarles, man. That was one heck of a player, and nobody ever talked about him, but I always liked him. I mean, obviously, there were a lot of big names there that he had to kind of work around and work through, but he was a good player in his own right for sure. Buccaneer Bruce says, February 7th is my 49th birthday. All I want is a Buccaneer Super Bowl win. I want it for you, awesome. Buccaneer Bruce, because you were in this chat every single podcast giving us $5, man, and we
he's from my hometown, Overland Park, Kansas, so he's in the middle.
Oh, that's right.
Enemy territory out there in Chiefs Kingdom, and he's the lone Buccaneer out there.
Oh man,
and an old school Buccaneer at that. So that's awesome, John. We've spent a little bit of time talking about this matchup. The cool thing is we're going to talk more about it on Wednesday, and then we're going to have Dwight Smith out there at Glory Days on Saturday for our podcast. I'm sure you'll do some more Bucs Chiefs preview on Thursday. But let's since there wasn't a game to hand out game balls for this week's Bucs podcast. We typically do like a recap podcast, but there wasn't a game.
Right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do a segment called Big Ballers.
Big Ballers. Buccaneers, let's go.
We're going to be talking about which players, which Buccaneers on offense and defense need to ball out in order for them to become the Super Bowl champions and dethrone the Chiefs. But John, before we do that, are you ready for some football?
Before we do that, I'm very ready.
Okay, because the biggest game of the year is upon us, February 7th in Tampa, and it's time to get your balls feeling super.
Oh,
John,
yeah.
our partners at Manscaped are here to tell you to join the nearly 2 million men who trust Manscaped products for their below-the-waist grooming needs. So you might have seen those Manscaped ads with Gronk, right? He's a Manscaped guy. Take Gronk's advice and shave your super balls. Use the best tools to reduce nicks and cuts before the best game and choose the Manscaped Perfect Package 3.0. Included is the Lawnmower 3.0, which is simply the best hygiene tool for the modern man. Because of the ceramic, blade, and skin-safe technology, your snags will be reduced. Very important. Don't settle for unnecessary roughness below the waist, John. It also has waterproof technology and a 90-minute battery. Believe me when I tell you, this is the Super Bowl champion of all ball trimmers, right? This is the perfect package.
100%.
It comes, the Perfect Package 3.0 comes with the Crop Preserver, which is ball deodorant. Okay. This preserver is the anti-chafing ball deodorant to keep your balls in the game for all 4 quarters. And it comes with the Crop Reviver. The Crop Reviver is a spray-on toner for your balls. It's made with soothing aloe and witch hazel. It's going to give your balls a boost in the clutch time. Manscaped even threw in the Shed. That's right. This is a travel bag to keep all your goodies stored comfortably. And speaking of comfort, Manscaped has got the best anti-chafing ball boxer briefs that are included in this Perfect Package 3.0. John, am I kidding about the boxers?
Oh, no, you're not. They're amazing.
They are. Like, they're the best pair of boxers I have. And I'm going to have to probably order some more for Valentine's Day. That's what I'm telling myself to get me, right? For Valentine's Day. So complete your top-to-bottom grooming game with the new Refined Cologne Signature Scent. I've got that right here. This is some good stuff. All right, this is Mrs. Reynolds approved. So the Refined Cologne Scent, this is a signature formula, and it's a perfect complement to all of your Manscaped products. So it's a whole new ball game this year, John. It's a super ball game. Get 20% off and free shipping. Use the promo code PEWTER at manscaped.com. Your super balls will thank you. That's 20% off and free shipping with the promo code PEWTER. And if you do that, we're going to continue this promotion through the Super Bowl. Going to get you a Pewter Report T-shirt, white, black, or gray. All you got to do is place your order. And guys, Valentine's Day is coming up. So why don't you do yourself a favor and tell your girlfriend or wife what you really want for Valentine's Day. Have her get you this. And then say, oh, hey, babe, all you have to do is email the receipt to Scott Reynolds at sr@pewterreport.com. sr@pewterreport.com. Doesn't have any of your financial information in it. Don't want it, don't need it, but it's going to have your address. That's what I do need to send you that free shirt. So be sure to do that. You get a free shirt in addition to all your goodies from Manscaped.
Love it. Great stuff. Great incentive there. And now the big baller segment, Scott, where we pick one player offensively and one player defensively that we think is kind of the most important factor, one of the most important factors to winning this ball game.
Yep. I'm going to go first, John. Offense, Tom Brady.
You want me to go first? You want to go?
No, I'm going to go first. Tom Brady. You got to be the man, right? You can't let the young goat, take over your territory. And you got to be king of the hill. You got to be the king of the jungle here. And I think Brady's got to outplay Mahomes. And what that means is 3 touchdowns or more. But I think he has to throw 3 touchdowns. The magic number for this game is 30 points, John. Tampa Bay is 30. When they scored 30 points, they're 11-0 this year. And guess what? They didn't make that the last time. They were held to 24 points by the Chiefs defense. So I think Tom Brady's got to find a way to get this team to 30 points or more, and he has got to outplay Mahomes. On the defensive side, I'm going to cheat. It's not just one guy. It's 2 guys. It's Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett. They have to work in tandem to take advantage of this banged-up Chiefs offensive line the way they did last week in Green Bay, or I should say 2 weeks ago in Green Bay. against the line that didn't have David Bakhtiari. We saw Billy Turner have to move from right tackle to left tackle, and Jason Pierre-Paul was able to abuse him for a pair of sacks. Ricky Wagner came in to replace him at right tackle, and he got abused for 3 sacks. So now you've got the same situation. You have Mike Remmers, who was originally replacing Mitchell Schwartz, who's been out for most of the year with a back injury at right tackle. When Eric Fisher went down, now Remmers has to go from right tackle to left tackle. If you remember against Von Miller in the Denver Broncos-Carolina Panthers game, he got turned into a turnstile by Von Miller. So maybe Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett can do that to Mike Remmers playing left tackle now, while Andrew Wiley moves from right guard to right tackle. And I think that both Barrett and JPP have to have big games against Patrick Mahomes.
I agree with you completely, man. Those two guys, ton riding on them. Great choices. I'm going to go with the skill guys offensively. I say that kind of generally, but I just think the receivers have to have a great game. You know, I mean, I really do. I don't think they had a great game last time against the Chiefs. I don't think they've had moments, obviously, in the playoffs. You know, somebody has at least. While other guys have struggled, the depth has saved them. But I don't think the stars have been stars in the playoffs, really. And I know Godwin had the big 50-yard catch, and I do give him credit. I think he bounced back, still dropped one. I think he almost dropped the 50-yarder, actually caught it on the second try on the way down, but it was a tough catch, so we give him that for sure. But I think they have to be consistently great. I really do. I think these guys have to play at a really high level as a group. I don't think you can have one guy, you know, Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller saved the day in the Saints game. Well, where were the other guys? You know, AB's been quiet in the playoffs outside of that touchdown against Washington. It's really the only play he's made in the playoffs. And so, you know, he's got to come back from injury and make an impact. Mike Evans is, you know, again, great game against Washington. You know, again, he's kind of invisible against the Saints. He doesn't make a couple plays that he should make against the Packers. And so, you know, does he come out and does he play consistently well for all 4 quarters? Again, I think those guys just have to be great. I'm going to actually write about this for Bucs Briefing and talk about some of the ways that can happen. So tomorrow morning, look for that column sometime. It'll be up, and I'm just going to be talking about how I think that group, you know, nobody talks about. They talk about Brady, they talk about the defense, Bowles, Arians, Leftwich, the offensive line, but nobody's really talked about the receivers this year. I think they've been inconsistent. I think they are extremely talented, and when they're at their best, and it's probably the best room in the league. But I think they need to be consistent in this game and consistently dominant for them to win this game. So I'm going to put a lot of pressure on those guys. And then defensively, I mean, you mentioned with JPP and Shaq, and I definitely agree with that. But I'm going to put a lot on Winfield, too. I mean, he comes back from injury. Even if Whitehead plays, it might not be 100%. He's not going to be 100%, and he might not be the same. And Winfield comes back, and I think he's just got to make a big impact in the game. And not only it's going to be deep, he's got to be able to read things out and be aggressive. You know, I felt like the scheme hung Carlton Davis out to dry, but also, you know, these safeties got to think, like, where's this ball going? You know what I mean? It's not just Winfield, but it's Edwards too. But Winfield, I think, is going to be put in positions in this game to make an impact, and he's got to make that impact. I think they're going to give him opportunities to play in man coverage, probably against Travis Kelce, based on how they played Jared Cook and how they've moved him around a little bit more in recent weeks, and Mike Edwards playing more and him being a good deep option. So he's going to get opportunities deep. He's going to get opportunities over Tyreek Hill to make plays. So I think he'll be a guy that's around the ball a lot in this game, you know, not to mention pressure, you know, sacks potentially and blitzing. And so I think there's just a lot of emphasis on the Bucs to make plays in this game. He's been one of the few guys that has made plays, stripping the ball, rushing the passer in the backfield, you know, in deep coverage and man coverage. Like, he's kind of made plays all over. He's made plays in the red zone. He has, I think, 3 or 4 pass breakups this season in the end zone. And so there's not many guys in the league that have done that, especially at safety. So, he's changed games because of that stuff. It might not go up in the stat sheet as an interception, but it's impactful in the same level, the ways he saved this team at times in the end zone. And so I think he needs to be that type of player for the Bucs. He was a non-factor, basically. I don't think he was at fault necessarily. He just wasn't an impact player the first time when they played in Week 12. I think he's got to be an impact player this time around, and I think he'll be in position to do so. So there you have it. There's your big ballers. I see some of you fans kind of shouting out some people and talking about the receivers and stuff, and Scotty Miller being thrown in there. Yeah, a different X factor, Scotty Miller for sure. But we were kind of talking about the most important things. And obviously, I think between what we collectively said, we kind of touched on a lot of what we think
John,
that is.
John, we're talking about the most important part of the podcast now, and you know what time it is? It's the Celsius 3-month giveaway.
We made it.
That's
if
right.
You stuck around, you made it.
Celsius and Pewter Report have teamed to announce a free product giveaway for 3-month supply of Celsius. That's originals, that's heat, that's BCAA, sweetened stevia. meaning 8 to 12 pack cases or 96 cans, I should say, 96 cans of your favorite in-stock flavors. 2 lucky Pewter Report podcast listeners and viewers will be chosen at random to win that 3-month supply of Celsius. Here are the details. This is all you got to do. Subscribe to Pewter Report TV on YouTube. Should have done it already. If you haven't, do it now. Take a screen capture of it with your cell phone. Number 2, follow Celsius Official on either Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. They'd love for you to do all 3, but they're only making you do 1. Once you do that, do a screen capture on your phone. Number 3, if you haven't done it yet, screen capture the fact that you've subscribed to Pewter Report TV on YouTube and that you have followed Celsius Official on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Number 4, go submit your entry to www.celsius.com/pewter. That's all you got to do. They're going to ask you for your name, your email address, and have you upload those 2 screen captures. That's it. And you could win 3 months supply of Celsius. That's 96 cans, people. That's good stuff. The contest ends February 8th, and the winners will be chosen shortly thereafter and notified by Celsius. So, hell of a promotion, John. They want to thank you all.
Promotion. Celsius is awesome.
Yeah, for watching the podcast and listening to it. So it's fantastic. It's free to enter, and all you got to do is just follow the instructions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fun stuff, and it's going to be fun stuff this week on the podcast as well. Like you said, Wednesday we'll have our preview show. We'll get into some of the stats for this game, and we'll have some insight from the Chiefs' perspective as well.
And our predictions.
In our predictions as well. Yes, we'll have that as well. And then Thursday, we'll have some guests on the show. Got some fun stuff lined up for Thursday that I think is going to make everybody. It's going to be a very interesting show. Not going to be the type of show that we always have, but it's going to be fun, I think. So a little bit something unique coming on Thursday. And then Saturday, like Scott said, noon to 2 will be a Glory Days, and it's going to be a blast. We're going to be live right there. And so come on down to that Carrollwood location. Honestly, they have such good food. I can't wait. They're opening a Glory Days in 2 weeks right out by where I live. And Scott, you've raved about them since before you moved down here. So yeah, come out, try the food.
Pewter Report giveaways, Pewter Report giveaways, Glory Days giveaways. Celsius will be there. And if you haven't tried Celsius yet, we're going to give you some free cans. So you can check it out for free with some free Celsius cans and swag. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, and the lightning you're kicking tail right now, as Charlie Abrams is reminding us. So
go Bolts.
Great day to be a Tampa Bay fan. Great year to be a Tampa Bay fan. So we appreciate you all tuning in and listening, and we'll be back on Wednesday on the Pewter Report podcast. Until then, thanks so much for listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.